Hey everybody, welcome back to the range. Got a special CZ Scorpion EVO 3 S1 accessory today. This is a nice looking box. I bet you can guess where it's from. HBindustries. What's in the box? Only one can imagine. Oh, look at that. Pistol version of their new aluminum handguard with M-lock. So fancy. HBindustries recently introduced their handguards in 3 lengths: the K, the pistol, and the carbine version. I have the pistol and the carbine with me today. These are aerospace grade aluminum, type 3 class 2 hard anodizing, commonly found on like other aluminum parts such as AR-15s, so you should be able to throw any kind of nasty chemicals on these as you want, and they should hold up just fine. Like I said, this is the pistol and this is the carbine version. I had them send me the carbine version just so we can see how long it is in relation to the pistol version. I did not have them send me the K one because if I had it, it would make me jealous and want to cut my barrel down on my CZ, and you know, stuff costs money. For today's video, we're going to go through a general installation and overview review of their handguard. They do include instructions with these. They recommend that a qualified gunsmith do the installation. So if you're not comfortable taking your gun apart, I probably would advise against it. The main thing here is we're going to have to take the factory nut off, and then for the most part the handguard comes off pretty easy. There's a trunnion here that fits back here, and then you screw the handguard onto the trunnion. So if you're like me, I've used a crescent wrench to take off my barrel nut before. I didn't have a lot of Loctite on mine, but if you have a lot of Loctite, they're not fun to take off. HBI actually sells a special little tool here to help take that nut off. It takes a 1/2-inch drive ratchet that you can put in there, and then you can get your barrel nut off. Granted, again, you still don't have a lot of Loctite on there. They also include all their hardware, including a Torx bit to tighten the screws down with, and a new roll pin and reduced power spring for your charging handle should you need it. So first things first, if you have the factory flash hider on there, that should be easily removed. It's only hand tight. I actually have an EWK Arms 1/2-inch thread adapter on there because mine's one of the first gen that doesn't have the dual threads up front. And obviously make sure your gun is clear. I'll go ahead and take this adapter off. So the nice thing about their little barrel wrench is it will even fit over the little flash hider retaining pin there. A retaining clip, I should say. And now we're ready to try to take this off. Like I said, I don't have a lot of Loctite on mine. So mine should come off pretty easily. This sure beats a crescent wrench. That way you don't damage your handguard. So after a few turns, this should come off. That was a lot better than using the crescent wrench and digging up the fore end. Take your barrel nut off. Now the easy part, the whole handguard just slide off. There's our barrel. There's all our nasty Loctite. You can remove the factory sling points on each side. I have the Yeti Works QD mount on the other side. Take that off because you won't need those. Maybe clean off your barrel a little bit, clean some of that nasty Loctite off the threads. With the handguard off, you can just slide the charging handle back and out of the way, set it aside. If you still use the iron sights like I do, you need to take that off and transfer that to your new handguard. You need a 3mm Allen wrench for that. Slide that off there, set that aside. They do give you a new retaining pin for the charging handle, so you can probably leave this one in the factory one, or you can just knock it out. And you can set your factory aside, and you're done with it for now. HBI does note in the instructions that these staking marks that you see here, that stake the barrel into the trunnion or line them up, may need to be filed down if you can't get the trunnion all the way on. Mine are pretty smooth, so I shouldn't have an issue with that. Okay. Alright, this is going to be really hard, folks. So hard you might need some kind of degree to do this. Take the trunnion, slip it over the barrel, push it on. Like I said, make sure those staking marks are smooth and out of the way, and push the trunnion flush up against the receiver there. The two pins on the top of the trunnion help locate and align it on the receiver. Shouldn't have really any slop there. So flip your gun over and you'll see the screw hole at the bottom here. Take your T25 cap screw, the long one. They do recommend Loctite. I'll use some blue here. I wouldn't recommend using red unless you definitely don't want to get this off without heat. They call for 28 inch-pounds. It should be, good and tight. 28 inch-pounds is not a whole lot. Just going to clamp down on the barrel. That's pretty tight. It shouldn't be going anywhere. So far this installation is pretty easy. Now while you have the handguard off, if you're wondering, I do have the factory full auto barrel cooler right here, and it looks like the trunnion puts it too far forward to actually reuse the factory barrel nut and have any threads left on there. I mean, there's like 3 threads on there. So if you want to use this with the HBI handguard, you're probably going to have to cut down however thick this is off here so we can reuse the threads we have there. Or you could leave it the length it is, and if you have a threaded adapter, you can always get a spacer or something cut there. Keep that on there. We'll have to fiddle with that at a later time. Maybe HBI will make a barrel cooler to go with their handguards. Alright, now we're ready to put your handguard of choice on the gun. Like I said, we're going to use the pistol one first here. We should just be able to slide it over the barrel like here. It should kind of line up. Grab the shorter T25 screws, and I would just start them. Don't tighten them down until you get all four of them in there. Just make sure everything lines up. So turn the gun over, do the other side. You can blue Loctite these if you want, 20 inch-pounds. Or just kind of go back and forth, tighten them down to make sure you get even pressure on them. So now that you've tightened these down, like I said, I just work in an alternating pattern, get them nice and snug. Let's go ahead and reinstall your charging handle. They do recommend that if you're having a little bit of binding in here, because it's aluminum on aluminum, to go with the factory charging handle. We'll try the HBI one and see how it goes. Now remember, when you insert this, the little spring's going to catch, so you have to go from the other side and push it back. So once you have the charging handle back there, I would kind of verify function. Like I said, they do mention that, you know, you have aluminum on aluminum contact here. So if you're not a straight pull back, you can kind of see I've already worn the finish down a little bit from dragging the handle down. You know, I want to make sure you drag it straight back. Even if you drag it up, you can see I'm taking off some material there. So we'll go ahead and install the polymer one and see if that's any better. So we have the factory polymer one in there. A lot better. Smooth action there. Not going to wear any of the material away. Maybe HBI will come out with a polymer version of their charging handle to alleviate that. HBI does include a new roll pin and reduced pressure spring for your charging handle, probably to help with the wear and tear inside the channel if you want to. The stock one doesn't seem to be giving me any issues, so I'm not going to really bother knocking it out of there, but you'll probably need a really tiny roll pin punch, and just to be really careful to get that out of there. Once you have your charging handle of choice installed, grab the roll pin that they include. I'm not sure why they couldn't just enlarge the hole and use the factory plastic one. The roll pin here kind of, I don't know, just nitpicking things. Looks like I can push it most of the way in. I've got a 5/32 punch. Just tap it in there. Looks like you can't tap it in too far. Okay. So just drive it in so it's just under flush there, because if you drive it in too far then it'll stick out the other side. And that's just to retain the charging handle so it doesn't come forward and then somehow come out. Check function. Comes back pretty easy. Locks back. Slides forward. Good fitment there. Good matching to the current Picatinny rail on the upper receiver. Right there, that's pretty good. All our lines match pretty well. Surfaces are nice. A little bit of gap right there. Other than that, fits pretty good. We're in the home stretch here. You can reinstall your front iron sight if you're using one. Since the handguard is retained by the rear trunnion, we no longer need our barrel nut or this little plastic spacer here to fit inside the handguard. If you haven't had Taylor P rethread your barrel, or you don't have the Gen 2 with the dual threads, we'll reinstall our thread adapter here. So once you've installed your threaded adapter, if you have one, you're pretty much ready to go. There's tons of M-LOK slots on this entire handguard, so you can install all kinds of accessories. I was going to order an M-LOK VFG, but they didn't have any in stock, so I ordered a piece of M-LOK rail, and I'll put it on the bottom and throw the vertical foregrip on there. So the handguard's pretty good. You can get pretty good grip on the forward of the gun. You don't have to worry about buying rubber covers for your pick rails. I've got plenty of clearance there. I've got almost probably an inch with the Osprey 45 there. I do have the extended piston in there for the Beretta, but the regular piston should fit fine. You should have a little less clearance there, so that's good to know. I imagine if you had someone rethread it or the factory threads, you might want to run the extended piston on there, because you're going to get closer to the handguard, which looks a little more aesthetically pleasing, but no big deal. The idea I did have with the carbine handguard was to try to run the Osprey under it, and it actually fits under the handguard, as you can see, but because this is stepped inside here and the Osprey is not a round can, we've got like maybe 3/16 of an inch gap up here on an angle. So it'd be something for HBI to think about. You'd have to flare out the end of the handguard right here, and you probably could get the Osprey to fit there. Darn. Overall length-wise, the carbine handguard from HBI is going to add a couple of inches. We're at 28 inches overall. Not too bad. Get extra purchase on the front of the gun there. And if you had a round suppressor, you could run it under the handguard, no problem there. So let's put the carbine handguard back on and go out and take some shots. Well, there are no issues after firing the gun. We put 60 to 70 rounds downrange as fast as we could at one point. Remember, I only owned a semi-automatic. And the warmest part of the gun was right where the trunnion meets the barrel. I think anyone with a semi-automatic EVO probably isn't going to run into heat issues. Maybe somebody who has a conversion or gun range could get their hands on this or run a few mags full auto down it and see what kind of heat transfers to it. I would assume if there was an issue, you could cut the barrel cooler to fit to help draw some of the heat away from there, but for the most part I think that's really a non-issue. All three lengths are huge hunks of aluminum. There's a lot of machine time that goes into drilling out for the charging handle, doing the M-lock and Picatinny rail slots, and the fit and finish on these is top notch. The K handguard, or the micro, starts at 114 plus shipping. The pistol's 134 and the carbine length one is 164. Any of the three sizes will accommodate up to a 1.57 inch outside diameter suppressor. Shame that the Osprey doesn't fit inside. As far as weight goes, the OEM, as you see here, with the hand stop and a couple small parts, was 10 ounces. The HBI pistol with the roll pin and the random bolts and everything was 10.2 ounces. The handguard itself was 8.1 and the trunnion was 2.2. The full length carbine here was 13.7 ounces. So you're really not going to gain any weight from having to take this off and put the aluminum one on, so that's a good thing. The new handguard still allows the EVO to fit in the OEM hard case. If you move the front sight up, you'll have to cut some of the foam out there, so that's a good thing. You get a longer sight radius there. Unfortunately, if you run the full-length carbine handguard, that will not fit in the OEM case, but it will fit in this cool Blackhawk discreet tennis racket case that, you know where I got this from. Optics Planet. Click the links. Overall, I think this is a very well executed handguard. It probably needs a little long-term testing to see how well the mounting system holds up, but HBI hits it out of the park with this one. My single point of annoyance with the handguard is using the OEM charging handle. You can use the aftermarket ones with aluminum handles, but the friction caused there on the handguard, I really didn't like that, and it was starting to wear the finish off, so I ended up throwing the OEM one in. I threw the low power spring in there, and there really isn't almost any point in putting it in there because it just seemed to make it fall right out of the guide there when I took the handguard off. I see that HBI makes a polymer version of their mag release now, so maybe they'll make polymer handles for their charging handles. I will throw a link in the description below to HBI's installation video for this as well if you want to check it out. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. Your biggest hurdle is getting your factory nut off, especially if you have the carbine version. You almost need another specialized tool to get that off. But other than that, the trunnion goes on pretty easy, and then after that, 4 bolts and you're done. Thank you again to HBI for providing us with these parts to test, and thank you all for the thumbs up and comments. Until next time, take it easy everybody.